thank you, whoever hit that, because I had it on our first slide and forgot. It said push record,
No,
but I
that
went past the slide.
A.M. Rents sent me a text as a reminder. So then it took me like 5 to 10 seconds to find the button. So
Thank you, Ann. All right, so the recognition for basically for this year is a little bit different. It's going to be, when I say a little bit, I mean a lot. It's going to be online. The application will be online, and what is being required of the districts is or buildings is a little bit different. And you see, for one, it's going to be pared down. It'll be a lot easier for you to get this stuff. Like there's a TFI and the walkthrough tool, which you're supposed to be doing anyway with your buildings. Most of you do with your buildings. And then the walkthrough tool, 90% of the staff list 67% of the expectations. 70% of the students list 67% of the expectations. 90% of the staff give acknowledgments, and 50% of the students have received an acknowledgement. Which are basically the same things that we've had in the past. But again, those are you will do the walkthrough, your team will do the TFI, the self-assessment survey. If you need to do a self-assessment survey, and this is the one area where you're going to need some assistance from us, all you have to do is email me and ask, let me know what window you want that opened. And as far as like, maybe it's from next Monday to next Friday or whatever. And once you tell me that, I will open that window, send you the link, make sure that you are on the people you want to have access to the reports are on the PBIS app, and then you can conduct that at any time. That is the one. I mean, you can go to PBIS apps and download a paper copy and give it the paper copy, but I'm telling you, it's a lot easier, a lot simpler, and streamlined if you just ask me for it and get the link and do it that way. You'll need a copy of your discipline policy. There's a school profile, and you'll see what's going to happen is there's going to be like a survey link, and you will just answer the questions in the survey and upload whatever it is that survey is asking you for. And then the state level data, that's going to be basically the stuff that the state's going to take care of. And what we'll get into a little bit more of that. Basically, there has to be either a decrease or no change in the all discipline rate from the previous year. It can increase as long as it's still below 5 value points or 5% of a change. Now, when we go to silver, everything from the bronze is still in place, and then you will add the only thing you have to add for silver is the chronic absenteeism improvement indicator data. And there's a link there that will take you to a form that you can put in that information from there. Gold is everything from bronze and silver, plus the submission of the tier 3 support plan worksheet. And again, you will get all of this as we get closer to application time. And then the state level data that the department will give, again, all the required silver award state level data. All right. The timeline. In March, you should have access to a resource document on the webpage, the Ohio PBIS.org webpage, and application questions so you can start preparing. All right. Then you will go to the Ohio PBIS.org website, and your survey should be there, or a survey should be there that you can get into. You complete the survey monkey link, directly to the department for review and scoring. We have nothing to do with it. Like, nothing will come through us. I will tell you this, Buddy and I will get together sometime in the next couple of weeks, and once we know a little bit more and about what these questions are going to look like and all that, we will probably do like a hour or 2 hour Zoom on how to fill out this application and best ways of making sure that you have your TFI and that stuff. But at this point, everything's from you. Other than the state data that has to be there, everything is you're doing the TFI, you're doing the SAS, you're doing the walkthrough, you're providing all of that. You know, you don't need us for any of that. Okay. We will be there if you have any questions. Basically, what in completing the application, that's what we're going to be here for. We're here as a resource, but they're the ones that are going to be doing. Once you turn it in, it's completely out of our hands. So one of the things I'm going to suggest is that if you want us to look over your stuff before you send it, make sure you contact either Buddy or I or Sherry. If you're doing preschool, Ann can help you out there. Sorry, Ann, I didn't introduce you, but Ann is our preschool PBIS, early childhood, not preschool, early childhood PBIS consultant, and can give you all the answers on that. We have any questions in the chat or anything like that? Buddy, you know?
We just had a couple. One was basically, is this application process required?
No.
Yeah, and that's what I responded. It's, yeah, no one's required to submit an application for to be recognized for an award. When you got a second, there was a question about the modules from before, but I don't want to cross topics.
Okay. All right. We'll let me get through this timeline, because then in May 1st through the 31st, the department's going to review all the applications, and they are telling us they are going to work with the schools if they don't see something that they need, that they're going to get back to you so that you can correct your application. And then you will have, if they get to you and they say, okay, there's a problem with this, you have, and I know the timeline does not make a lot of sense because they're just telling you in May 1st that you have an issue, and then you have until May 1st to email dispute correction for any findings reports. Well, this is mainly for if you get a finding report that puts you in violation of restraint and seclusion laws, or complaints about the restraint and seclusion. This is the time that you have to dispute that and to correct any of the mistakes from that. And then September 15th through the October 1st, the department will look at all the state level data, all that discipline data from this year, and then determine the recognition award status for each school. They will then in October send out notifications to all the applicants. And then from October 13th through the 22nd, if you have 90% of your buildings are award winners and you want to apply for a district award, that's when that link will become available. And then November 25th, they will let everybody know the district status. Okay. So questions on that, on those modules? What were what was the question about that?
It was just as far as the length of time. Let me scroll back. Are you able to tell us the time requirements associated with each of those modules?
I'm not sure exactly. I know I went through the old, it takes a build or takes a whole building. And it was, I think for each of the sections in that, it was about a half hour. Seemed like it took maybe 3 hours to complete the whole thing. I'm not sure what those, I know that they're trying to streamline it so that it's not super long. I haven't gone through those yet. I know that there were 6 modules, I believe, at one point within the team one. I don't know what that looks like right now. Once
Scott,
yes.
At the beginning of each of those modules is like an outline of what topics are going to be covered. And there is a little spot where it will tell you an approximate amount of time to complete them. The time is different for every module. I would say probably if you're going to do this in a group and facilitate it for your staff, I would add a good 15-20 minutes to that just so that you can stop in certain places and have conversations. And those modules are created so that you can, they give you topics to talk about, ideas to consider, watch mini video clips, and then have a conversation about that clip that you saw. So it is pretty interactive. It's not just it's not like Public School Works, for those of you who are familiar with Public School Works, where you just go in and you just keep clicking and listening to the information. It is more interactive than
I have
that.
a question on that. When will the facilitators, there were supposed to be facilitators guides. When are those
Yeah.
going to be available?
Lindsay, I can send that out to you.
Okay, thank you.
We just got those on last Friday.
Okay.
And so I'll send you a link to that.
Awesome, thank you.
Sure.
Scott,
Amber and Amber and
could
Ron are on here too. They might need it.
Yep,
Yes.
I was just going to ask if you could send it to us too. Thank you.
For sure. Let me. Amber, Ron, Lindsay. Sure will. And then, so those modules, and I would suggest you go through and just kind of look at them. They're a little bit different. I will tell you, like the difference between them and the like Public School Works things, where you just basically could fast forward through everything and take a test and be done. These are much more interactive, and in a good way. I will tell you, like they are. It's not just to make sure you're not cheating. There's purpose to all the interactions that are in there, and I truly do believe these are good, and takes a lot less time than those 3 days of tier 1 train the trainer in-person things that we used to do. It's so much more streamlined and a lot. I think it really is a lot more applicable to schools. One of the things I wanted to share with you was this PBIS intervention menu. It's a list of reliable research-based strategies to support students. It is in that folder. It has tier 1 interventions and practices. It has tier 2 interventions, along with an intervention match. And then it has tier 3 interventions and links to resources for each of those interventions. With the exception of tier 3, there are some of them are linked, but some of them are things that because you're talking about individuals getting professional counseling, that type of thing, that those are not necessarily linked in there. When I came across this, I thought this was a really good resource, especially for your teams that are doing things that are kind of struggling with certain behaviors, and whether or not you're doing things that are effective. These are all research-based strategies, and I think I've gone through most of them and found like they are really good resources, and it gives you ideas on things to do with those tier 2, tier 3 kids that sometimes we struggle with. Any questions on that?
So Scott, I might have missed it. Where is this menu?
It should be in your folder.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you.
And
I dropped the folder into the chat again.
thank
so,
you.
um,
So last week, I was on the Ohio PBIS network that has the consultants from all over the state, and ODEW like shared a lot of the state discipline data that compared how schools without or at the lower ends of PBIS were doing in comparison with those schools that had full intervention. You can see when you look at this, the rate drops significantly between those schools that have nothing to those with initial, and those that are at that highest level of innovation, the amount of discipline. Also, when we look at expulsion and suspensions, again, this is what we've been trying to say for as long as I've been doing PBIS stuff. It works. If you look at the data, and this is from across the state, this isn't just from they didn't cherry pick a few districts. They did this across the state, and you can see that those numbers drop significantly as you go. What does this all then mean as far as what it means to you guys? Well, when we start looking at chronic absenteeism, if you have created this environment, this culture within your district, your building, that is much more relationship oriented, what you see are things like the discipline drops, and because you're not kicking kids out or having to suspend kids, you're seeing that chronic absenteeism go down. And when we talk about this, when you look at the full and innovation levels, those are lower than the state rate of 25.6. Again, we know it works. And the data is now there. The state's going through the data and checking to make sure that the theory is meeting the reality. And from everything we can see, it is working. And you can go to Ohio's attendance guide. Those links, if you go to the PowerPoint in your folder, those links are live. They will allow you to get some attendance resources, some truly plug and play training curriculum stuff, and then also it has the attendance chronic absenteeism for across the state, and you can see in our region, which is right here, we're not doing bad. There's some districts in the eastern part of the region that are struggling with chronic absenteeism, but I also know that they're addressing it. Yeah, so again, it kind of gives you an idea when you look around the state. And those districts, I don't know what they're doing in that upper western quadrant or region where they have all those like blue, but they are somehow getting kids to come to school and not having those chronic absenteeism issues. So here's part of that is going to happen from ODU. There were 715 schools, about 22% of districts that did not report implementation with the legislative requirement. Remember, the last few years you were supposed to be at an E or an F, and 715 schools did not report that. Beginning in February, sometime this month, these schools are going to get some technical assistance, and by that, what they are telling us is that schools that had an A or B, which is lowest level, either they are not implementing at all, or they are still in that exploring stage, will get a phone call and a follow-up email from ODU with some resources. Some of those resources are the people in this meeting. It's going to be, SST and ESC people who are going to be there to help those districts. Schools reporting a C or a D will just get an email with those resources in it. Again, it's going to be things like, all right, hey, you can get online modules. You have your staff do those. You can contact your SST or ESC to get coaching. There's also the Ohio PBIS.org. And then if it continues and you really have issues, then the department you can contact the department and get more information. I don't know that they're going to. I think really what they're doing is they right now are checking to make sure that of those 715 schools that reported no implementation, was that an EMIS coding error? Was there some problem with that because of the fact? And I know that some of the districts, this is what's the issue. Academically, an A is good and an F is bad. The Ohio Department of Education and Workforce, education, working with schools, decided they were going to reverse that. That it would be a great idea to reverse so that an A is bad and an F is good. Now, I don't know how well they communicated that to EMIS people that are implementing or inputting that stuff into the EMIS data. I don't know if I think that there are a lot of building principals um, and district leaders who did not really get that memo or understand that memo. And I think truly, I think a lot of those 715, they're doing something. They're not truly at E or F. It's just that they did not understand the assignment. So I'm going to stop sharing there. And are there any questions on anything we've talked about so far? All right. So I'm going to turn it over to Sherry Lawrence, who one of the things that we had heard initially, or we'd gotten information from a lot of principals who were saying that, hey, what do you have? These are primarily middle school and high school principals who said, what do you have as far as resources for vaping? Because we went through a period where that was an issue. And so I asked Sherry if she would mind getting on here and just kind of sharing a lot because I know she's done a lot of research in that with vaping. And so she's going to share with you what she has found. Sherry, it's all yours.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. I want to go back a slide. Okay, so just to kind of get us started here, like Scott said, I was doing quite a bit of research based on some requests from districts that I work with and districts that are in our region, and came across Ohio Department of Ed and Workforce information about Project Echo, which is through the state of Texas, and it was being sponsored by the Ohio Center of Excellence for Behavioral Health Prevention and Promotion. And it's a youth vaping seminar that has 5 or 6 sessions to it. You can see on the right side of my screen here, you can go to the department's website, click on those different links and register. It's a little wonky. It's not real user friendly to figure out how to actually register. So try to follow my steps here. There's a maroon box that you have to click on that says launch now. Yesterday was the youth as an equity deserving community, and it talked about marketing tactics that prey on youth vulnerability. If you register on March 12th, you'll be able to watch, it's an hour-long presentation, Quit for Good, which is evidence-based resources for cessation. Now, I'm going to click on the resource folder, and these resources are in your participant folder. There's, I think it's number 6, and it just says vaping resources. It's in a folder by itself.
Sherry, hold on a second. I just going to ask everybody because I had a message. Can everyone see what Sherry is sharing the screen?
I just see something that says Yoast offers nearly $11 million.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm seeing too.
Well, let me go back here. I was having some trouble this morning with my Zoom. Let me do this. Let me try one more time. Thank you for your patience. My computer is very slow. This morning I didn't have any internet, and I got that back. Okay, let's try this again. How about now? Can you see the slideshow?
Yeah, we can see it is just a smaller version, so we
Okay.
can see the slides on the left as you go through, but
It's the slides, it's not the slideshow.
Okay, how
There you
about
go.
now?
yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right, let me fast forward here. I had to back completely out of the whole, I don't know why. Okay, so let me start over real quick. The Ohio Department of Education and Workforce has a link on their website, and I've put those links on here for you to be able to register for a youth vaping prevention program. It's like a seminar. They've been holding these since early September of this school year. I didn't find out about it until probably late December, early January. I went in and signed up for the seminar. Session 4 is the one that I saw live. And basically, once you register, you can access all of the recordings for all of the other sessions. Each session is about an hour long. It's very doable. Some of the sessions have like a problem of practice, so you can hear what different agencies, not necessarily just educators, are what barriers they have with vaping prevention and things of that nature. If you click on your PowerPoint presentation, you will be able to get into the vaping resource folder. And like I said, session 4 is probably where you want to start. If you're interested in, they have a lot of people that present research and didactics. So those of you who are familiar with people getting a PhD, they have to do so many presentations about their research. So there are some didactic seminars. That's really what session 1, 2, 3, and 5 have been about. But the topics are in there by folder, so you can see, what it looks like, the history of vaping, the history of e-cigarettes. They pretty much covered everything. I'm going into session 4 because it is titled Tools and Resources for Schools. And if you don't have time to watch or look at anything else, focus on session 4's folder, because that is where the information is going to be that's going to be the most relevant to you. What on the PowerPoint presentation on the next slide is the video session of session 4. I'm not going to play it because it's about 28 minutes long, but when I get done showing you the resources, you'll understand why you might want to go back and listen to his information about each of these resources. What I am going to do, when you open the folder, there's a resource list in the folder. Sometimes they give you some other resources like research or a presentation. They give you the PowerPoint slides. There's usually a video and then a couple other resources in this one. So I'm going to open his presentation and just kind of go through some of the resources for you. Then we'd like to have a conversation centered around, have any of you used any of these resources? Think about maybe what grade levels, based on your experiences, would you want to use these resources, and maybe your next steps for, counteracting vaping practices that are happening in your district. So again, there is a link to the prevention education website on the Department of Education and Workforce, because there are prevention requirements that all districts are supposed to have embedded into their curriculum depending on grade level. He did a great job of talking about evidence-based prevention and look-fors in evidence-based prevention. And he even defined how Ohio law defines evidence-based programming. And then he just runs right into a lot of different resources. So The first one is called Refuse, Explain, Avoid, Leave. And he basically goes into a description of how this program can be used. So this one is called Keeping It Real. It is 10 45-minute lessons with 5 videos, and it's from kids, by kids, for kids. And he puts the prices on here. Sometimes he'll even put how long each session is. So that one's Keeping It Real. There's another one by Botvin called Life Skills Training, and I know you can't see it very well on here, but if you can make your screen bigger, you can see they start from in kindergarten and go all the way through 12th grade, and they have different topics. So you might be interested in looking at that one. They have one specific training for adults, 1-day foundation training workshop. There's a train the trainer workshop if you would like to train more people in your district. You might want that option. Here's another program for grades 5 through 9 called TNT, Towards No Tobacco Use. There's a teacher guide that goes with it. A lot of evidence-based comprehensive curriculum in a 10-day program. Sometimes we need to think outside the box, right? Because if we are in a high school, let's say, and this is a 10-day program, we probably can't make this like a semester-long course, right? So where might we be able to embed a 10-day program to get something like this into the discussion with our students? So he gives some more information about TNT there. Here's another program called Project Alert, which is for middle school students, substance use for middle school students. It talks about the curriculum, the online training program. There's posters, there are newsletters. MSPP is another program, Model Smoking Prevention Program. Again, he has prices there and goes through the number of sessions that it takes. There is actually a program by the CDC called Guide to E-Cigarettes and Vaping Presentations, and the one that he highlighted was Know the Risks. There's one for ages 11 through 18. And this kind of gives you an idea of what the topics are. Vaping, Know the Truth, free digital lessons. So that might be something you're interested in. Again, there are 6 lessons. They're about 10 minutes each, grades 8 through 12. Scholastic actually has, if you remember, the old Scholastic newsletters or newspapers that some teachers use, they actually have a vaping newsletter program. That's a curriculum that you might be interested in checking out. My Life, My Quit is a cessation program. So if you have students that have already been caught vaping and you know that it could be a health issue, a medical issue, because they are addicted to the nicotine at this point, then you might want to look at some of the different cessation programs. And he just gives some information about what that program looks like. The American Lung Association has a ton of resources on their website, and he just highlighted some of those. Catch My Breath is probably one that I think has been used the most in our region from what I'm hearing from different people, because it really breaks down the curriculum, and it doesn't use scare tactics. And that was one of the ideas. If you listen to the entire recording, he's going to tell you, when I'm going to age myself a little bit. When I was in school, you know how we went to driver's ed and they showed us all of the cars that were crashed and that was supposed to keep us from drinking and driving or distracted driving or whatever it was. And then in health class, they showed us the black lungs, right? Or the popcorn lungs, or what a smoker looks like. Research has shown that that is not effective with students, with young kids who have not fully developed that part of their brain that makes decisions or understands. They think they're invincible. They they don't relate what they're seeing as something that can happen to them. And so programs that talk about how to walk away from situations, or programs that talk about sometimes the cost of using those types of materials, those are highly effective in keeping students from starting in the first place. And then he went in to talk about the origins of drug-based suspensions and expulsions. We all know that suspending students, we have to do something, right? We can't just let students bring vapes to school and distribute them and affect more students. But we also know that it's not typically rehabilitating. It doesn't support students changing their behavior. And so we really need to look at how are adults reacting and what are adults doing to kind of negate the behaviors of students who are choosing to do these things. So he goes into some information on evidence for alternatives to suspensions. And of course, a lot of districts have adopted, if you go through the the one-day vaping program, then we'll take a day off of your out of school or in school suspension. And unfortunately, for probably about 30% of students that go through that program, they are a repeat offender because it has turned into a medical condition. They are addicted to the nicotine. It's just not something that they're doing to break a rule to see how far they can go, what they can get away with. So he does go into some tiers of support and how to help students stop vaping and get away from that nicotine addiction. So that is what is in the folder. Does anyone have any experience with any of these programs? Are you using any of these in your district? They're all being very shy this morning, Scott.
Well, I'll say something. Amber and I are both facilitators for Catch My Breath.
Okay.
That training, we've done that in our districts, several times, and so we do have that, and of course that's a free, free program. But we do the facilitation for that for the districts when they ask.
Ron, do you know what age, what grade level are most districts using Catch My Breath in?
We've done presentations mainly for grades 5 through 8. Very little with the 9 through 12. But also in our VLA program too, we have a program as well, or a course in which when students do have a problem with vaping, that they use the VLA course to help them. I guess instead of giving suspensions, they have to do that particular course. So it's a nice program that they developed here with our VLA program, our curriculum.
Thanks, Ron. Anyone else using any curriculum that you would like to share? I will say I went down this whole rabbit hole because a lot of the high schools and middle schools that I've been working with feel like this is more of a problem than any other behavior that they are dealing with right now. And honestly, when we look at regional PBIS data, our data is showing that now this is EMIS reported data, right, through districts that goes to the state, and then the state regurgitates that data and gives it back to us regionally. What our data has really shown is that suspension, out of school and in school suspensions for violence and disruptive behavior and disrespect and insubordination are twice as high as students being out of school suspended for vaping. So while vaping is something that all of our districts are looking at and dealing with, those PBIS tiers of support really need stronger implementation in order to address the two highest areas of behavior needs in our region. So I just, full disclosure there, I just wanted to give you that information so that you knew about that. I will, can you guys see the PowerPoint presentation again?
We see the slides.
Yeah.
Okay, let me go back to the slideshow. So, any other questions about vaping? Or any other comments about vaping? This slide just kind of talks about considerations when you're looking at different vaping curriculums. And if you look at the Ohio Center of Excellence PowerPoint presentation in that video, he goes through a lot of more considerations for that. One other area that I wanted to talk about today, real quick, this just came across our emails earlier this week. Dave Yost, it is not on the Department of Education and Workforce's website. I tried to find a link there. It is not there. The last link for school safety funding is from 2023 on the department site, but this is on the Attorney General's site. So that's where I went to get this link. Can you see the link when I click on it?
Yes.
Okay. So Attorney General Yost has released a media, I don't even know what you would call it, a media announcement about $11 million to grant funds to enhance school safety. This is not just for equipment or cameras or a resource officer. If you walk down through the link, you'll see you can look at educational resources for all grade levels, training to identify and assist students with mental health issues, systems that allow immediate camera access, silent panic alarm. You know, it's a very all-encompassing kind of safety grant this year. And basically, you have to apply by May 30th. This money is available to all districts. It's first come, first served. So whoever gets their mini grants turned in first and fills out their applications will be the ones funded until the money runs out. So I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that. There are two types of grants. The formula-based grant is just a flat grant of $2,500 or $4.50 per student, whichever amount is greater. There's also a project-based grant. So if you're thinking a little more globally and you want to implement something on a grander scale, you could earn up to $40,000 per district by sharing your idea with them and seeing, you know, what area or what part of funding they would be willing to do. This is not a matching funds grant, so you don't have to match the funds with this. And this kind of came out on the down low, so I wanted to make sure that everybody was aware that those funds are available for your use. So if you're looking at social emotional learning curriculum possibly, or training staff members to do a program like Breathe for Change, which can be a little bit pricey, you know, these funds are available for your use for consideration. So I think that is all I have, guys. Oh, no, one more shameless plug. As you all know, Integrated MTSS is part of PBIS as well as academic supports. And we've had a lot of really great response for our Integrated MTSS Foundations training. And so we've added one more spot. So on February 26th, I believe you can register through the 19th of this month. we'll be offering that one more time here at the SST, and there are still seats available. So if you'd like to register for that, the link is right there on that slide. All right, I'm going to send it back to Scott and Buddy.
Hey, before Scott picks up again, I'm glad you showed that slide, Sherry, because it was kind of on my mind a little bit. Because I'm working with the district, and I know a lot of us in our office are working with districts that are part of different initiatives with the department. And within the majority of those initiatives, the department wants to know what your multi-tiered systems of support look like. What's it look like for academics? What's it look like for behavior? What's it look like for attendance? And those are the three areas they're focusing on to try to develop early warning data to prevent dropouts, to have a higher graduation rate, to have a higher attendance rate, less suspend, and all that. And I think that with the letters MTSS, like with some other letters that we hear throughout the state, maybe it's a little bit intimidating when you, when you see it or when you hear it. But through conversations with districts, there are a lot of districts that do things when they see some negative things happen with students. If they're not coming to school, there are some things that they try to do, which would be termed interventions. And if students are failing courses, there are things that they do to help prevent, student failures. But they don't have it in a multi-tiered system of support to be able to train staff or to come up with the interventions and categorize them as tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. And they don't collect data or do progress monitoring depending on what tier intervention they're using to see if those interventions are working, or if they should maybe go back to the drawing board and come up with different strategies and interventions that might have a better effect on the change that that you're hoping to get from your students, or change in adult practices for student. So that's why I'm kind of, I like Sherry's, and I think Susan Larson, I don't know who all is involved in the development of that PD, but I think folks that are kind of right in the middle, it's like, yeah, we're doing some things, but we don't really have it set to where we can roll it out to staff or put it in a staff handbook or explain it to parents or things like that. Be a great PD to go to, because we're doing it district by district, that there involve some other initiatives, because it's helpful. And when we get back to collecting data to see if things work, the better your MTSS system is formalized, then you're going to know what's working and what's not, right? It's going to lead to, to better student outcomes in the end. So I just wanted to kind of put a plug for that, and to say, like, hey, don't be intimidated by those 4 letters or the big long term that says multi-tiered systems of support, because I can remember 20 whatever years ago, back when we implemented, a building was the first SPDIG grant that was ever established. And one of the things we had to do was come up with an academic system of support and a behavior system of support. And that's when I initially went to PBIS training. And that's when our teachers were initially trained in DIBELS and some other reading interventions to satisfy that side of the triangle for academic supports. So, and I guess through the years, I just always thought of it as second nature, because we were doing that in that particular district for years and years. But fast forward 20 years later, and there's a lot of districts that don't have those systems in place. So I don't know if anyone has any questions or comments on that, but definitely don't be scared of MTSS, because a lot of folks do stuff, but they just need to like put it in that formal looking system.
Thanks, Buddy. And that's really what this one-day training is about. It's a lot of information that's thrown at you, but you will leave with like a self-assessment of each of the areas of creating that system. And then you'll know where you should probably start when it comes to strengthening your systems of support. And we're doing this foundational training. We're taking a lot of comments and ideas from all of you that come. And then our goal as an SST is to break each of these areas down and provide a more in-depth focused training on progress monitoring for interventions, as an example, or teaming structures, based on your individual, district makeup of team meetings and contracts and all of those types of things. So, yeah, we'd love to have you. We have some seats left, and it's usually pretty well received, and people leave with a pretty good idea of what their next steps should be in that process. So
Thanks, Sherry.
thank you.
I think, I think there's a lot of confusion as to what MTSS is, and I think that PD is perfect for helping you to understand. You have a lot of places, and I've said this several times to different districts. You have a lot of the pieces in place. What you need is a system to make sure that those are being utilized, and that everybody knows what is where and how we do things in this district. The other part to the whole, once you have that system in place, it's not dependent on any one person. It's not dependent on any individuals who are within the district that have been solely in charge of PBIS or solely in charge of other support systems that are within the district. The system itself is in place, and Sherry's going to help you do that. One of the other things, and I wanted to talk about, and you saw the slide for Jill Sheridan's PD, and I'll share that again here in a minute. But one things we've been waiting on for a few years now is the release of the TFI 3.0, and it is out now in a beta version. There will be some changes coming here and there, but for the most part, this is eventually going to be the standard. I say eventually because, like, right now, I have not heard anything from the state in which they are saying, okay, we're going to start requiring schools to start using 3.0 on this date. We've not heard anything about that, because I think that the key right now is getting people used to doing the 2.1. I'm going to, let me share my screen because I want you to see what the difference is. When you look at the 3.0, this is just 1.1, and there's a crosswalk that Jill's going to be sharing in her trainings, and I know Lindsay's going to be doing it with Jill on a different day. I'll share those slides and those dates with you here in a minute. But when you look at this, the first thing you see is that there's no longer just 0, 1, 2. It's now a basically 5-point scale. It's a lot more specific on as you go through it. You'll see on what is being required for you consider in this case, team composition. It's also, as you go through it, you see there are some changes on various things. I want to show. This is an example of the crosswalk. Can you see that? Did it change? Okay. So the crosswalk shows what is the feature composition. Same number, same title. TFI 2.1 has shows you what the list of those people are. When you get to 3.0, it gets a lot more specific on what skill level or what skills those team members should have. And it doesn't necessarily mean, like when it says that, like at the bottom, individuals who actively provide expertise in the following areas: applied behavior support, mental health and trauma, academic instruction, coaching, equity. You don't have to have different people for each of those. In fact, most teachers can cover most of those skill levels, that expertise, but it gets into a little bit more specifics when it goes through that. I'm not going to go through the whole crosswalk because Jill and Lindsay can do that a lot better than I can. But I just wanted to give you an idea that it's out there now. It should be showing up on the Ohio PBIS.org website fairly soon, so you can get copies of it, and you'll be able to get an idea of what that's going to have in it. And so I'm going to go back to sharing these slides. So Joe Sheridan has a 3.0 collaborative workshop on Tuesday, February 25th. That's going to be 9:30 to 11:30, and you can register at that address. I would recommend if you can get to that to do that. And then for Muskingum Valley ESC members, Jill and Lindsay are doing this on February 26th. That's going to be at the MDESC building in Zanesville. And then there's a registration on there. Lindsay, you want to say anything about that?
Just that you don't necessarily have to be an MVESC member to come. We welcome everyone. Love to have you.
Love that inclusion. And then we'll get to the evaluation in a minute. Right now, are there any questions, any concerns, anything that has come up at your buildings, or whether it's in anything that you would like to talk about with, there's a lot of experts in this room right now on this Zoom, people who have a lot of experience with PBIS. So is there anything that you would like to ask about or suggest? If you have some suggestions that some things that are working really well for your building that you've come on.
I was going to ask something, Scott. Like hopefully other folks have some thoughts in their mind. But we were talking about vaping, and then you were also tying in the PBIS data to the higher implementation leads to better results in attendance. I know in the past we've had someone on here that talked about restorative discipline. I guess I'm kind of curious with the folks that are on here, have they done anything with discipline policies in a restorative discipline kind of way to limit the days out of students, if it's a vaping suspension, or if it's a, any other type of suspension, to try to, um, help in that aspect for attendance. Or if it's just standalone, I know that's, a hot topic right now too, is if there's any attendance strategies that have been working to chip away at that absenteeism and the chronic absenteeism. So, those are just thoughts that I hear from districts that are looking for something, in those areas to help. So, if anyone has any ideas.
At wait time.
I'll speak up and say that I think in some of our districts, restorative justice kind of has put a bad taste in some folks' mouths because they think that it doesn't mean it means no accountability. So I'll just throw that out there. That doesn't mean that some of those things aren't happening. We're just not calling it restorative justice.
And I think that's a lot of what goes on is people have something and a new title comes out that says, well, this is restorative justice or restorative discipline, and it's stuff that you've been doing all along. It's just that now there's a new name for it, and the bottom line is we're trying to keep kids in school for to keep kids. And it's not just because it's going to help our chronic absenteeism data. It's not just because it's going to increase our attendance. We want them in school because we know that's the best place for them in order for them to be successful later in life. And that's what our goal is to keep them in school, prepare them for life after school, after they've graduated. And so, whatever we can do to help, keep them in school, we want to do, or encourage them to stay in school.
There was a comment in the chat. Thanks, Megan. It was she said, great short read on this topic. Better than carrots or sticks, restorative practices for positive classroom management. So I assume that's a research article of some sort that folks can look up online.
Megan, you want to explain what that is?
It's just a short book. I think it was like 100 pages or less, and it was really easy to read. It would make a nice like admin level book study or teacher book study. But just it was on the topic we were discussing.
Good, yeah.
Well, really appreciate everybody, joining us today. I'm going to put the evaluation in, and
I'll there's a what was it?
you
Link
can put that in the chat
too. Yeah.
While you're doing that, there's a few other slides. We want to talk about our you can contact us on our Facebook page. We are on X/Twitter. I still can't. I'm sorry. It's Twitter. Sorry, Elon. We also have we are on LinkedIn, and we also have we actually have a couple YouTube pages because all of our network meetings and a lot of our PDs that we tape are on YouTube, so you can get in and see a lot of the things that the resources that we talk about. The problem is that we had a YouTube page, and then we lost access to our YouTube page, and we couldn't figure out how to get back to our YouTube page. So we had to create another YouTube page. So half of our stuff's on one, half's on the other. But usually what happens is, like, we will send out links to this recording when we're all done. Again, mine is on Facebook, X, and then this is the one that is our latest. State Support Team Region 1261. And that has, again, a lot of if you just do a State Support Team Region 12 search, you'll find most of the videos that are on there. Again, we want to encourage you to use the OLAC website. There are a lot of resources on there that can help you, not just with PBIS, but with other leadership issues. And with that, Buddy, you have anything else?
Nope, I do not.
Sherry?
I was just going to say, if you are working through some tiers of support for chronic absenteeism and attendance, I do have some resources. It wasn't on today's agenda. I shared some, I think, during another network meeting, but since then I've done a little bit more in that area. So feel free to reach out to me if you would like to go through some of those other resources for tiers of support.
Anne, anything from early childhood? Did she just leave? Oh.
I hit the wrong button. No, other than the modules for early childhood are on Ocali, and they have both tier 1 and tier 2 on there. And I'm in the process of trying to get an answer about what early childhood is using for TFI.
I have not heard that. And those are approved modules. So you can get your I can't think what
Your high approved hours.
Yes, they are Ohio approved hours. So want to thank you guys for joining us.
I had one more thing, Scott, just because this is our last in-person PD that's ever tier 1, tier 2, or classroom PBIS will be March.
Oh yeah.
I think it's March the 18th, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Tuesday, March 18th. So if you want to experience Scott and I in person for tier 2 or classroom PBIS one last time before it shifts to all Ocali and all, and we'll try not to get in trouble because some of the slides are still the old ODE slides, since the new ones aren't officially released until the end of this spring, then by all means register online.
Yeah, and if you haven't experienced Buddy and Scott in person, it's a show. And we will be sending out that invitation probably in the next couple of weeks. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate everybody being here. And again, anytime you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to Buddy, myself, and Sherry.